looking at your stroke from this morning. Just crank it up here. So the top view, you've got good body position, as I was saying to you earlier, which is fantastic. You can see there your hips are really high in the water, your legs are straight, they're not creating any drag for you, unnecessary drag. Your body's nice and long, so that's really good and is going to save you a lot of trouble in the long run. I'm just going to slow this down. So this is at half speed. If we look at your hands, there is slight crossing of your hands as they enter the water above your head, which is going to mean that you're not going to be able to get the same purchase on the water. You're just expending energy over to the side. So if you look at this here, where your hand is there, we'd really like to see it out here, straight in front of you, because when it's here, if you look at my cursor point, you're just pushing that water out to the side for the start of your stroke. Same with your other hand, it's really not in a straight line. Now that's not a massive thing, it's quite easily rectified. So I'm just going to point out a few things to you here, and then I'll put into an email the things I think you should really work on, because you won't be able to work on everything straight away. But generally speaking, the top view of you swimming is pretty good. I'm going to quicken this up a little bit, bring it up to real speed. So here you are under the water. Under the water, you've got a very fast kick, which is really good. It's helping your body have good balance underneath the water. You'll see your knees do tend to bend a little bit here. That's just when your body drops when it rotates. Now I think in a wetsuit that won't be as much of an issue, but obviously when your knees bend like that, there will be, it will create a bit of drag, and it will pull your feet down a bit, which creates a bit of drag. Not a major problem. You've got a 4-beat kick, which is an extremely quick kick, and the good thing about your kick is that when you kick it's with the opposite to your arm, so it's the correct way. In other words, when your right arm is going into the propulsion phase, your left leg is kicking, so you're well balanced in that respect. So that's very good. We can actually bring that back a little bit, and I'll show you. If I can make this go back. So that's excellent. It will really help you swim more balanced. Now we'll slow that down a little. So you can see here your left arm is in the water just as your right leg kicks. If you look now, your right arm is pulling just as your left leg kicks. So your left leg is kicking there. Here's your right arm. It's just coming through the propulsion phase. So that's very good. It's a well balanced kick. So I don't think we really need to work on that. Now let's start looking at you from the front as you swim towards the camera. So this is the major thing I think we need to work on. If you watch your hand, this hand in particular, what it does. So this is your right hand. Look at this, the way it comes right underneath your body. You actually touch your waist with your right hand. It's very marked, not half as bad with your left hand. If you watch your left hand now, it more or less stays outside of the line underneath your body. So we really want to do with your right hand what your left hand is doing. There goes the right hand again. You put it right across your waist, whereas your left hand is staying the way we want it, which is outside that kind of area underneath your body. The reason for that is you're going to get a lot more propulsion if you can keep that right hand outside away from underneath your body. You're losing a lot of force when your hand drifts underneath your body. You've got good high elbow, you've got good kind of propulsion on the water, but you're losing it. Every bit of it gets lost in that final half, especially on that right hand. So really, we just want your right hand to do what your left hand is already doing. I think that's going to make a massive difference to your swim times. It'll feel a bit funny at first, but it'll make a massive difference. Now, if you just look at your right and your left hand, they're doing very different things. Here comes the right hand again. It's very good, very good. That's a really good reach. Look at that. Elbow's quite good. Your body is rotated very well. You've got a good line between your shoulder, your elbow, and your torso. That's really good. You can see that your hand, now we might work on your wrist and what's going on with your hand here a little later, but first things first, that's excellent. It's here where you lose it. This hand is beginning to drift underneath the body. We'd really like to see that elbow a little higher up and the hand not drifting underneath the body, because you're just losing an awful lot of propulsion on the water. And then as it goes on, you can see it comes right underneath your body and then hugs your whole body. So you're getting absolutely no propulsion by the time it gets to here. And then you bring it round. So you can see it's quite unusual. But there you go. So the other hand, here we are. You've just finished your reach phase here. Your hand is coming through. Funnily enough, you probably don't have as good of a high elbow position on your left hand as you do on your right. And you see your body position, your shoulder to your elbow position isn't as good. We'd expect it to be out this way a bit more. It's not as good as your other hand, but you're still getting much better propulsion on this hand, because this is what's important. This hand is not drifting underneath your body. It's staying out there, so you're still getting more propulsion from your elbow tip down to your fingertip through the water. And you're pushing right through to the end, which is very encouraging. So I'll just let it play on a bit so you can actually watch it. Now there are a few more things going on there, but we're going to deal with first things first. The two major things, the most important thing to deal with is what that right hand is doing. If we can keep that from drifting underneath the body, I think it's going to be quite difficult for you at first, because it looks quite ingrained, especially how it kind of holds the torso at the very end of it. But if you can sort that out, we'll see immediate improvements. But apart from that, underneath the water, you've got good rotation, good body rotation. You know, your hips are nice and high. We can see that underneath the water as well. Your legs are kicking very efficiently. You've got good reach. One thing which we will work on a little later is how your hands tend to dive underneath the water a little early, and they're creating a little bit of a braking effect, but that's not for this week. This week really we're going to focus on two things. The first one is what we looked at earlier, which is how your hands are crossing slightly when they come into the water. And the second thing, which is the most important one, is what your right hand does underneath the water. So I'll just forward this on a little bit here. You see it swimming back up the pool. I'm going to quicken it up into nearly real time. So this is you in real time. As you can see, it's much harder to see what's going on. Now, your stroke rate is a little low. Eventually, we'd like to increase that a bit, but that's for further down the line as well. Next thing we're going to look at here is what your hands are doing as they come into the water. So here we are, this is 1/4 speed. So when I told you that I think your entry is a little soon, you can see it here, your hand comes into the water and then it travels underneath the water for quite a bit. Now that creates a bit of a braking effect. You can see your palms are up. That's going to brake you a little as well. Now, as I said, this is something we're going to work on in future weeks, but I just might mark your card about it at the moment. What we'd like to see is those hands, when they enter the water, that your reach is already, that you're already almost at your ultimate reach. Now, you're probably thinking, but I need to glide. I've always been told I want to glide underneath on my reach. That is definitely true, but we'd like the kind of the glide, the reach to be at its fullest extent as your hand hits the water, rather than you reaching through the water, because water is so much more dense than air that when you reach through the water, as you're doing now, that water is so dense it slows you down. So your left hand actually, your right hand does it a bit more than your left hand. Here comes your left hand. You don't reach as much underneath the water with your left. Here's your right. You can see it plows a lot deeper and travels through the water for a lot further than your left hand. So even if we could get your right hand up to doing what your left hand does in the reach as well, that'd be fantastic. But that's the second thing we're going to work on.